Hello, my name is Yanko Demari, and I'd like to speak to you about autism. You see, the truth is, 30 years ago, very few people had ever heard about autism. Back in the late 80s, when the movie Rain Man was released, Dustin Hoffman's character was autistic, but most people, including myself, had no idea this condition existed. Unfortunately, today, it's become common knowledge. The nationwide rate of autism back in the 70s was 1 in 5,000. By 1985, it was 1 in 2,500, and by 1995, it jumped to 1 in 500. Today, it's at around 1 in 60. An EPA study suggests that the boom began at a birth year of around 1988, and primarily in the state of California. According to a report by the California Department of Developmental Services, there were 2,778 cases of autism reported for the entire state in 1987, and by 1998, it jumped to 10,360, a percentage change of over 270%, and has continued to rise ever since. A 2018 report by the CDC shows that 1 in 59 children live with autism in the U.S., with New Jersey having the highest rate of 1 in 34 and Alabama having the lowest rate at 1 in 175. Worldwide, Hong Kong has the highest rate at 1 in 27, and Poland having the lowest in the world at 1 in 3,333. Back in the 1940s, when Dr. Leo Kenner first identified autism, he thought it was caused by a genuine lack of maternal warmth. They were referred to as refrigerator moms. A study was made showing that children born to college degree parents have a 50% higher chance of being diagnosed with autism. Another study showed that living near a freeway would cause autism in children, and countless other studies, including the vaccine possibility. Experts are still uncertain about all the causes of autism. In all likelihood, there are multiple causes rather than just one. It appears to be that a number of different circumstances, including environmental, biologic, and genetic factors, set the stage for autism and make a child more likely to have the disorder. Here's what the EPA has to say about a possible candidate. 1. Any possible candidate must be a substance or substances whose exposure level dramatically increased in developed countries beginning at the 1988 checkpoint. 2. The candidate will be likely something whose exposure level was greater in California than in other parts of the world between 1988 and 1997. 3. The candidate would have had to be something introduced in California and countries like Japan first, and later to developing countries around the world. 4. The candidate would need to be disruptive to early human neural development. 5. The candidate would need to have a route of exposure consistent with bioavailability to fetuses and infants. 6. The candidate would need to have increasing levels of U.S. exposure between 1988 and 1995. So the question is, what happened? What did mothers in California start doing in the mid-80s that they weren't doing before, and then cause women all over the world to do the same, if anything? Since the 80s, people from all walks of life have become better educated on health and environmental awareness. But still, what are women in the United States doing that women in Poland are not doing? What is the possible candidate that the EPA is talking about, and does it exist? Well, what if I were to tell you that a possible candidate that fits all the criteria of the EPA actually exists? What if I were to tell you that nail salons and nail polishes are the perfect candidate? I know you probably think I'm crazy, and you're ready to turn this presentation off, but please keep watching and let me explain. But first of all, I want to clarify that this is not a conspiracy theory, nor is it a blame the government theory, and definitely not a blame the mothers theory. You see, it all started back in the 70s when actress Tippi Hedren from Alfred Hitchcock's movie The Birds visited a Vietnamese refugee camp in California. The Hollywood star's long, polished fingernails dazzled the women there. Hedren, who just so happened to be Melanie Griffin's mom, flew in her personal manicurist to teach a group of 20 refugees the art of manicures. Those 20 women went on to transform the industry, which is now worth about $8 billion and is dominated by Vietnamese women all over the world. By the mid-80s, salons were opening up by the hundreds and are still continuing to grow today. You can't turn the corner without seeing several nail salons in the neighborhood. From the first 20 students, there are currently 400,000 nail technicians and around 60,000 nail salons in the U.S. alone, down from 130,000 in 2015. California having the most at around 8,000 salons, and New Jersey having the most nail salons per capita in the U.S. New Jersey has more nail salons than McDonald's and Starbucks. This growth of nail salons is consistent with the growth of autism cases all around the world. You see, suddenly having your nails done was no longer a luxury. It became mainstream, and now everyone can afford a manicure and a pedicure. But can nail polish really be harmful in such a way? To find out, let's take a closer look at the chemicals found in nail polish. The first is formaldehyde, which is used as a nail hardening agent. Second is toluene, which creates a smooth finish across the nail and keeps the pigment from separating in the bottle. Next are dibutyl phthalate, DBP, and triphenyl phosphate, TPHP, binding agents and plasticizers that make the polishes more flexible and durable. These are the three main ingredients in the nail polish itself, but there are dozens of other products used in nail salons, like acetone, adhesives, gels, etc. Each one with its own set of toxic chemicals. But for now, let's talk about these three, which are known in scientific circles as the toxic trio. Here's why. Triphenyl phosphate, TPHP, is a known endocrine-disrupting chemical with the ability to produce adverse developmental, reproductive, neurological, and immune effects in both humans and wildlife. Research suggests that endocrine disruptors pose the greatest risk during prenatal and postnatal development. A recent university study of 24 participants who painted their nails with products containing TPHP showed a 7-fold increase of the chemical in their bodies, 10 to 14 hours after their polishing. Normally, chemicals decrease in the body over time, not increase. Linked to cancer in lab animals, dibutyl phthalate, DBP, is believed to cause underdeveloped genitals and long-term fertility problems in newborn boys. In fact, in Australia, DBP is listed as a reproductive toxicant and must be labeled with the phrases like may cause harm to the unborn child and possible risk of impaired fertility. DBP has also been prohibited from cosmetics in Europe, but in the United States, there are no restrictions on its use. Toluene has been known to have negative effects on the nervous system, as well as being an irritant to the skin, eyes, and respiratory tract. When ingested or inhaled, the most common route of exposure, toluene also causes systemic toxicity. The EPA's fact sheet says that this toxic chemical can also impair cognitive and kidney function, and that repeated exposure during pregnancy can adversely affect the developing fetus. When present in the air, formaldehyde causes some individuals to experience adverse effects such as watery burning eyes, nose, and throat. Coughing, wheezing, nausea, and skin irritation have also been reported, as well as an increased risk of asthma and allergies in children, and, worst of all, cancer. The fact is, it's no secret the toxic trio causes harm to humans. They've been found to be so toxic that the Los Angeles Department of Public Health and the city of San Francisco enacted new city ordinances against them. These ordinances state that nail polishes containing these three chemicals should be considered hazardous waste and, as such, may not be disposed of in regular trash. The nail salon industry has seen the damages these chemicals cause as various government agencies, local and state authorities have implemented regulations that pertain to the nail salon workers and their safety. Today, nail salon workers are required to wear masks and gloves when handling nail products, and proper ventilation is required in every workplace. That includes an adequate supply of outdoor air of approximately 20 cubic feet per minute per occupant, so that there are multiple pathways for air to enter and exit the room. Unfortunately, research shows that most shops only have a single door for ventilation with no secondary air pathway. Sadly, stories of illness and tragedy abound at nail salons across the country. Children born slow or special, miscarriages, and cancers, coughs that don't go away, and painful skin afflictions. The stories have become so common that older manicurists warn women of childbearing age to stay away from the business because of the toxic brew of polishes, solvents, hardeners, and glues that nail workers handle daily. "We know that a lot of these chemicals are very dangerous," said David Michaels, the Assistant Labor Secretary who heads OSHA, the Federal Occupation Safety and Health Administration. "We don't need to see the effect in nail salon workers to know that they are dangerous to the workers." One big problem, however, with all of the research and regulation being enacted is this: most have been implemented strictly for the workplace and do nothing to protect customers. The reason stated is that customers aren't in the nail salons long enough to be affected by the chemicals and fumes. Frankly, that might be partially true for most adults, but what about an expectant mother and her unborn child, who has just started development and is no more than a few centimeters in size? These women sit there, sometimes for over an hour, waiting for an available technician. Then they sit for another hour to get her manicure and pedicure, surrounded by hundreds of partially opened bottles of nail polish, acetone, adhesives, gels, and countless chemicals used in the industry, breathing in all the toxic fumes they create as they sit. Scientists know the effect of these chemicals individually, but what happens when all are combined, their fumes being inhaled all at once? Friend, I've been married for over 30 years and have raised 3 lovely daughters. Believe me when I say I've visited my share of nail salons. Many times when picking up my girls, I've had to wait outside because the fumes were simply too harsh. Here's something else to think about also. It's been said that the human body is perfect. With everything, it needs to protect and heal itself. When a woman is pregnant, her body undergoes many changes to help nourish the fetus, but only one thing changes in a woman's body to help protect the baby from any dangers: an increased sense of smell, which usually happens during the first trimester. In fact, it's been said that a woman's nose is her baby's bodyguard during pregnancy. As you can see, nail salons and nail polish fit all the criteria of a possible candidate as stated by the EPA. But here's some more information for you to think about. A UCLA study to see if a mother's place of birth is a risk factor for autism found that the risk for children born in California to mothers who were born in Vietnam was 43% higher than the rest of the population. Well, 80% of the nail technicians in the 8,000 nail salons in California are Vietnamese. The United Kingdom's autism rate is one of the highest worldwide. Recently, nail polish sales reached an all-time annual high of over $350 million. And at one point, more nail salons were being opened in the UK than any other independent business. The UK's autism rate is 94 out of 10,000. Japan also has one of the highest rates of autistic children. Japan's pioneer to the salon industry was Sachiko Nakasone. Back in the late 70s, she attended the school for nail technicians in Los Angeles. She then returned to Japan to begin instructing students on the techniques she learned in California. Today, they are leaders in the industry, which has flourished to $1.5 billion annually. It had been reported that 20% of all women in Japan get their nails done regularly. Japan has an autism rate of 1 in 55. As for Poland having the lowest rate of autism, 1 in 3,333, around the same rate of the United States back in 1985, prior to the nail salon boom. Well, it has been reported that the discount quick in-and-out type of nail salons never really took off in Poland. Manicures and pedicures are still a luxury and never became mainstream as in other developing countries. I am sure that you will find that in any state or country that has a high rate of autism, Nail salons started operating there around the same time the autism rates started rising. I urge you to take this information and do your own research. You won't find many articles linking autism with nail polish, but you will find all the information you need on the toxic trio to make an intelligent conclusion.